Well, first of all, I just love skiing. Like, so much. There's nothing in the world that brings me more joy, ever.
Yeah, I'm scared to death right now, but I've got this. Like, I know deep down inside, I'm capable of what I'm about to do.
I came back way stronger. I felt like the rehab was pretty simple and straightforward. And I learned how to appreciate my body and how to take care of it, what to eat and like to stretch. I was 18, so I felt like I was invincible at the time.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to The Athletic Stance, episode 11. I can't believe how fast these are rolling along. This week's guest doesn't disappoint, as amazing as all the rest. He was the first person to pull a triple flip in the backcountry. He's an X Games medalist. He's super humble. For this week is Madsen Watches. Christian Madsen and I, our first sponsor for this week is Madsen Watches. Christian Madsen and I struck a deal after I saw the watches on Facebook and loved their mission and just the look and everything that went along with the brand. I can't give the deal out publicly, so if you want a deal on Madsen Watches, MADSEN-watches.com, go ahead and shoot me a message over Instagram at Scott Chrisman. Scott spelled with one T, Chrisman. Our second sponsor is Crested Butte Mountain Resort. As springtime rolls around, I want to encourage each and every one of you to come visit my home resort, Crested Butte. Come take place in some of the fun festivities that involve an end-of-the-year rail jam, pond skim, and a whole lot more. If you have any questions about traveling to Crested Butte, don't hesitate to reach out to me on my Instagram, again, at Scott Chrisman. Scott spelled with one T, Chrisman. What's up, guys? Welcome back to The Athletic Stance, episode 11. I can't believe how fast these are rolling along. This week's guest doesn't disappoint, as amazing as all the rest. He was the first person to pull a triple flip in the backcountry. He's an X Games medalist. He's super humble, multi-talented across different sports, and an amazingly intelligent and wisdom-filled human being. I really hope that you guys take a lot out of this conversation and all the rest. Without further ado, Dane Tudor.
Yep. Well, my name is Dane Tudor, and I'm 28 now. I've been skiing professionally for almost 9 years, I think it is. And I was born in Australia. I grew up in Alaska during the summer months and Rossland during the winter months. I now spend the majority of my time in Rossland, summer and winter. I really like it here. The biking's awesome in the summer and the skiing's great in the winter. And it's close enough to most of the film locations I go to, so I managed to come back home now. I spent some time in Revelstoke filming and in Whistler to kick off my career, actually. But now I just like to be back home and hang out with the buds and shred and go on trips when they arise.
Yeah, totally. Less travel, having a home base seems for me to be like I lived out of my car chasing the Free Skiing World Tour for a while, and not having a home base or like a place to rest my hat, quote unquote, was like really tough for me. Obviously worth it, and I had so much fun. Wouldn't trade those memories for the world. But yeah, man, home is where the heart is, right?
It's for sure. Like, I don't know. I've spent time up in Revy on and off for the past few years, and I actually bought some property up there, but ironically now I'm hanging out back at home again. So it seems like you can't get me out at Roslyn. It's just a good spot for me, and like doesn't have as much of a scene. It's more of a family town and like quite a bit more roots style. It's just not blowing up like other places, even though it's getting busier. It's just a much more chill vibe.
Yeah, totally. Not like a huge gentrification process, which seems to be happening in like a lot of mountain towns across the whole, the whole continent, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I moved out of Whistler because it was getting crazy, and then I went to Revy, and then it's getting crazy, so.
Yeah, man. The one thing that blew me away about Revy was how there's like a whole town or a whole community in town that really could give an F less about skiing. And then there's like a whole community that's like just all diehard snow, ski, snowboard, splitboard, skinning, snowmobiling, all that kind of.
Well, I got that feeling a bit this summer when I was there. I was just kind of driving through town, and it was so busy. I was like, get me the hell out of here. We're just in there to get some groceries before we go camping. But, I see a couple really loke dog looking dudes drive by, and I just was wondering, like, what do you guys feel about all this? It's just like such a mania there now. And, those guys growing up there must just be so different for them. And who knows?
Yeah, totally. I mean, the world's definitely changing around us with technology, with, so many things have changed in the last years. It's like you just got to adapt, but I wonder the same, what their opinion is, how they feel about it.
I would probably myself be like, get the hell out of here, but that's just me.
Yeah, totally. It's easy to, like reminisce about what you're used to and just want that all the time, I feel like.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, having your buddies around. Is there anyone specific that you prefer to shred with? Like, who's your favorite people, or how do you choose the people that you go out skiing with, especially like in the backcountry? Do you have qualifications, or how do you pick who you go out with? Because I think that's super important.
Yeah, it goes kind of. There's two different distinctions there. When I'm at home, I tend to ride with just my friends from town that are awesome shredders on bicycles and snowboards, skis, whatever. I tend to tour a lot around here with a couple of my friends' parents, actually.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
More like my buddies. They spend more time on the hill. So, I got a couple like good old school classic ski bums that I like to go touring with.
Yeah.
And when it comes to filming, I guess I definitely tried to get myself in with some of the bigger players, like Ian McIntosh and Sage and guys like them. They were some of the guys that I looked up to in the past before I was filming with TGR. So shifting over to filming with TGR was all about, getting in and being able to ski with those guys, as well as being able to ride the Alaska terrain. More than anything else, that was the reason I made the switch. And then, with filming, it's kind of a give and take situation, and you end up filming with all different types of people.
Yeah.
And everybody has their own skill levels. And, one person's good at one thing and another's good at another. So I feel like the majority of guys that I get to ride with at this point are all relatively versed and have done training in the backcountry and have a good idea of what they're doing.
Yeah.
But, you never at the same time, right? It's kind of like a blind faith sometimes too.
Yeah, totally. I think there's just an inherent trust that you put in anyone that you're going out in those situations with, that, that they're doing the best that they can with what they have, but that they've gone out and pursued getting the information that they need so that they can do the best that they can.
Yeah, for sure. And most of them are pretty experienced as far as film athletes go. So they've been out there for a while, right? So, you just trust in that on its own too.
Definitely.
experience.
Yeah, I got to ski with Ian McIntosh after his leg injury down in Chile in Patagonia, and hiking some mountains with him. It was, super apparent how much knowledge and experience that he had, and just the it takes experience to become a professional in anything, and so. Yeah, I think you can just tell the people that have been out there and who have put themselves in those hairy situations enough to stay calm and to know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, definitely. I've been skiing with Ian for the past 3 years now. We've been on quite a few trips together, and it's been really fun. And I kind of feel like, a mentorship kind of, like I'm just learning from him and trying to take in as much of his knowledge as possible in the mountains and like his leadership skills and planning skills and everything as a whole.
Yeah, totally. Is there a way that you learn from him, like more specifically? Do you ask questions? Do you just kind of sit back and watch? Is there a kind of a combination? Does he just jump in and offer information, or, how does that go for you?
Well, we all work as a team and we all bring as much as we can to the table. But I just I guess I'm just subconsciously taking notes and just, paying attention and just see how everything goes and take it from there, basically. Just experience gained on every trip.
Yeah, totally. And more trust. There's just a certain... I talked about this with Lexi DuPont, you have your friends that, you can go and, bullshit at the bar with and have fun in that aspect. And then you have these people that you trust with your life out in the backcountry. And there's, not to say that the one friendship is better than the other, but I think that there's, a difference in the friendship. And one of the things that I love about Ian is... when it's game time, it's game time. But then when it's time to have fun, he knows how to rage.
Yeah, for sure. He's hilarious. I've been going through a bunch of footage from last year, and it's like he never stops talking. He's just always yapping about something. It's pretty funny.
Totally. Do you have any funny stories? What's your most memorable story with Ian?
Oh. I think it's the funniest thing that's ever happened. I can't really say.
Okay.
It's good. Yeah.
I'll have to bug
It's a good moment. I'll leave it up to the imagination.
Well, speaking about crews, you absolutely slayed that year in the the X Games backcountry competition, the Rio ski. That had to have taken an epic crew of people. Who was on it, and how did you build that crew of people?
Well, to be honest, it did not take a huge crew of people.
Didn't? Okay.
It took 3 total.
Dang.
And it was organized. Basically, the filmer that I had working on the project, he and I have filmed together since I was a kid, and he was actually one of a few original inspirations that I had to get into filming in the first place when I was young.
Yeah.
And he used to live in Rossland, and he moved to Revi, and he'd been there for ages before I'd, started skiing there. But he took up filming and has been filming for Slednex and other companies over the past years. And so he and I were working on the project filming together, and I had this buddy, Elliot Bernhagen, who I had skied with in the past, and we had kind of seemed to become partners because, I don't know, he just didn't have anyone else to ride with, and I was in Revi, and he was in Revi, and he's just I call him the Bern Haglin, because he's just always haggling you about something, trying to get you to go somewhere and do some epic mission without enough planning. But great guy for sure. And so it was Elliot, Dono, and I, and we had a really sweet location that nobody else really goes to. And so we were just heading out there and building kickers. We built like 3 jumps in one day. And I don't know, it just felt like doing a million deadlifts, you know, like we're there the next day and my legs and back are just fried and we're hitting jumps, or I'm hitting the jumps, I guess. And it's like a full day of jumps, right? We have them set up in different aspects.
Yep.
So, you know, I'll start with this one jump in the morning and then move over to the midday jump and then to the afternoon jump and the evening jump. And definitely was a lot of tricks, some crashes, just overall. It was a really fun time. But yeah, it takes a little bit of perseverance.
Oh yeah, definitely. How long did that take you to film?
For the jump portion, I don't know, we might have done a week or something, but you know, it's just days when you're actually out there getting the shots.
Yeah.
Then other portions of the video were shot earlier in the season, and some of it may have been shot with TGR as well, I think. So it was a season short.
Yeah.
But the main jump section was done in the spring, probably over a week or 2 weeks of you know, just waiting for the weather windows.
Totally. Dude, when I saw that triple, I was so blown away. I loved seeing that, man. Absolutely loved seeing that.
Thanks. Yeah, it was really cool. I don't know. It's just crazy. I guess Elliot was there with me. He's just giving me sled laps, and I started off with a 7 and then dub 10. And, you know, I had to like do each trick a couple times, right, to get it the way I wanted it.
Yep.
And then I did switch 5 and then switched up 9 and probably the same thing, a couple tricks. And then I didn't really have anything else to do at that point. I was like, oh, well, now what? And Elliot's like, do a triple, man. I was like, all right. So I just went up there and just, you know, kind of self-talk to myself, you know, like, you got this shit. And all crazy about it, and then did it in first try, which was nice.
Yeah, totally.
It's the only thing I actually did.
Crazy. Speaking of self-talk, another question that I have for you, this leads right into it, is do you have like any mantras you say to yourself at the top of a line? Anything that you say to yourself? Is it just kind of like that positive self-talk, just getting yourself stoked up, or? Depends
on the scenario. Like in that scenario, I was pretty pumped up just from doing a lot of tricks and continuously riding, you know, like it was just back to back to back jump hits on that. So I was quite in the moment and pumped, and it was going to take a lot from me to do that. So I had to like really like, I was quite aggressive, you know, in a positive way, but just like really serious about it. And then other times, like some of the best skiing that I've done was in Haines, Alaska, and then at Fantasy Camp. And this was 2 back-to-back heli trips a couple of years ago. And I had been injured earlier in the season, so I hadn't been able to do a lot of filming leading up to that or skiing. I had thrown my back out, and I was out for like a month or so. But I had been practicing a lot of yoga, just trying to get my back better and breathing, and just kind of had to calm myself down. So I utilized the things that I had learned throughout the early part of the winter practicing yoga into, you know, my preparation for the big mountain lines. So I just really was taking in the surroundings and taking deeper breaths and really just trying to get in touch with the natural aspects of the mountains, and channeling that energy into the flow.
Yeah, totally. Like just being as aware as you possibly can of pretty much everything.
Yeah, and
in a calm way.
Of the moment, you know.
Sorry, will you say that one more time?
Just being appreciative of the moment.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And that's still to this day probably been some of the better big line skiing, just the way I felt and the commitment and everything. It just felt really good.
Yeah. Do you still practice yoga?
I do. Yeah. On and off for sure. Like I've been doing I did a lot of weight training over the past year and a half, I'd say.
Yeah.
So I got really into that aspect for a bit, and I've just been chilling actually a little bit this summer, just trying to recover some energy levels and stuff, because most outdoors people I think would know sometimes you just kind of burn out a little bit. It's like so much high intensity all the time, being the kind of people that we are. We just don't know how to slow down. Not that I don't, but I just seem to go at a really high level whenever I'm doing those activities. So I just wear my energy levels out.
Yeah, totally. I've got 4 speed flights in the last 3 days, and this morning I couldn't get myself out of bed, and I think it's because my adrenals are shocked from flying so much, and like I did some proxy stuff and like some of that where like it's similar to a big mountain lion where you get to the bottom and you're just like so jacked up because you made it, you're safe, you had a blast, everything went exactly the way that you wanted it to. So I can totally relate to that, just like feeling gassed and needing to recover.
Yeah.
Do you have any morning or evening routines that you do that you stick to? I know like traveling could be hard to stick to some routines, but you said you're sticking at home a little bit more. So do you have like a meditation or journaling or anything like that you do on a daily basis?
I wish I did, to be honest. Like, it depends on the time of year or the level of motivation and inspiration I have. Like, a couple of years ago, I'd wake up and I'd be on my bike every day at like 6 o'clock in the morning, just crushing it out to the top of the mountain kind of thing. And other times I'm going straight to the gym or whatever. But I wouldn't say that I have any kind of really specific morning or evening routines. It would be good to have, but I haven't gotten that going yet.
Yeah, totally.
The routine is just straight to the coffee.
I'm drinking coffee right now. It's
Nice.
7:30 at night here and crushing it out. I'm such a coffee addict.
It's good.
Well, speaking of coffee,
What do you put in coffee?
Oh, I've got cinnamon, coconut oil, hemp milk, and a little bit of honey in mine.
Nice.
In the morning, I keep it just black, and then after I've eaten, then I'll add those types of things in because I'm doing like a form of intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
If you've ever experimented with that, or if you know anything about that.
Yeah, I have experimented with it. I've experimented with a lot of different aspects of nutrition, and I don't really know anymore. Other than, just kind of listen to your body and you'll figure out exactly what it is that you truly need once you've gotten a proper nutrition plan and you don't eat like shitty foods.
Totally, man. I was just about to jump in and ask you about nutrition, so this is perfect. Yeah, for me, like I experimented with a ketogenic diet. I've been experimenting with the intermittent fasting. I've, experimented with like a raw food diet before. And I'm kind of in the same boat with you where I don't really know what to think about all of it. It's just kind of like, my body tells me what I need. And one of the big things that I'm doing right now is just switching up the foods that I eat. Like I got in a routine this summer of eating like quinoa, peppers, onions, and chicken almost every night. And it's like, I just think that my body was like, okay, enough of that. You need to switch it up. You need to, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. If you looked at a bodybuilding plan, they would say you don't need to switch it up, I think. They keep it as standard as possible just to like continue getting the same things because that's how they develop their aesthetic look.
Yep.
But yeah, I definitely experimented with a lot of different aspects, and I find how would I put it now? Like I was in kind of like I wanted to have a building phase, so I was like trying to eat a lot of food all the time, right?
Yep.
And that was kind of like the last of the experimentation up to this point. And this has been like over a couple years. Like I started off 2 years ago, I think, with the intermittent fasting stuff. And like that's when I was intermittent fasting and going biking every day in the morning, like huge bike rides with nothing but coffee.
Yeah.
Lost a fuckload of weight. I ended up 152 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Starting at like 180.
Dang.
So like super lean, but also definitely probably pretty thin, like endurance athlete style.
Yep.
And after that, I was like, okay, I don't really want to be like super thin. And it's hard to like control your eating habits, right? When you're doing shit like that.
Yep.
So I tried to balance out my process with eating and started doing more weight training.
Yep.
And that kind of took me through the next process. And I kind of still experimented with some intermittent fasting and weight training and this and that. And I gained a lot of muscle back. And now I'm like, I can still get up to about 180, but that definitely seems to be like my maximum.
Yep.
And that's like, I wouldn't want to eat any more food.
Yeah.
It's not possible. So like right now I sit around 173-ish.
Okay.
And, you know, I tend to eat later in the day. Like I could probably start eating anywhere from like 10 to noon.
Yep.
Depending on how much activity I'm doing. But I find that I'm not really wanting to eat too much in the morning just because like I need to, you know, like get up and use the bathroom, have a coffee, all that kind of stuff. And the coffee does tie you over a little bit.
Yep.
And I've been feeling pretty good with that. And my mom has always eaten really healthy. Like she's always eaten a lot of vegetables.
Yep.
So that's been something that I've always been on. But yeah, so now I just, you know, eat veggies, I don't know, still the same old stuff really. But I just kind of figured out how to listen to myself, because when you start reading all this shit and you get really interested in it, it takes you on such a crazy ride and you get so caught up in all these different aspects of it. And it's really hard to then figure out what's actually right for you because you're trying to do things that they think is right.
Yep.
So by then listening to your body, and one day, you know, I'm like, fuck, I can't eat anymore. And maybe that's not natural for me to get to that extra bit of weight that I might be looking for, right? Like my natural is where I feel comfortable each day eating the amount of food that I feel is right for me. And I'll have the right, you know, aesthetic and body type that I am built for, and that will work best for me to do the things that I do.
Yeah, totally. I got to that point where like I started experimenting with 2 different types of intermittent fasting, with like Rhonda Patrick, who does it for NRF1 and NRF2 activation, which is for like replenishing your mitochondria. And then, you know, Greg Gallagher is more of like a physique and testosterone and building lean muscle kind of idea. And then, you know, experimenting with the ketogenic diet, which is like super high in fat, which they, you know, say can tax your liver and your endocrine system, and your hormones. And yeah, like I just felt oversaturated with information and had no clue which one was actually right until I kind of just started coming back to listening to my own body, which I think super key, super crucial. I'm glad that you brought that up.
Yeah. It's a challenging thing to get to, you know, because you read through so much information and you really have to be like, okay, I'm going to stop all this other shit and go back to what my body wants. And it's really hard to figure it out until you make that decision. And it's also hard, like when you're going through the process, reading all these different things and like what you're mentioning, because you don't really know, you can't tell if any of it's working. I think like, it doesn't really matter what I do. My body's always pretty much the same. Like, sure, I've fluctuated in weight and stuff, but like, I can't say I've felt overly different. Like if I eliminate eating bread or this or that, like I can tell what my intestinal tract doesn't like as much. Like when I get really gassy, or like if I've eaten foods on top of other foods that don't work.
Yep.
But otherwise, like I feel pretty much the same no matter what.
Yeah, totally. For me, like I would notice at a certain point eating the ketogenic diet, which is like super high in fat and like almost no carbohydrates, I would notice that if I did workouts, like if I did 2-a-days 3 times in a week, by the end of that week, I would like I wouldn't really be able to work out. Like,
Yeah.
I just wouldn't have the energy to. And then I would, eat some fruit before working out, and all of a sudden everything is better. But
Yeah. The one thing I noticed too with training and like the high fat process, low carb, is like all my muscles just burned like crazy. The level of perceived exertion in the muscles and like the feeling of like less oxygen or whatever it is was just so high.
yeah.
In comparison to when you have carbs in the system. It's just so much better. You can go on high intensity for so much longer,
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you don't get to that point of like true exhaustion. Like, you may be tired and you may be feeling it, but you don't get to that point of true exhaustion where you just feel like you can't go anymore.
Yeah.
Is there a specific time that you normally wake up in the morning, or does that change? Do you just kind of let your body sleep however much it wants, or if you have a plan the next morning to go tackle a big mountain, you're probably up at earlier than if you don't have that plan?
Yeah, I find that we're pretty determined beings, right? So if you want to wake up early in the morning, it doesn't really matter. You're gonna like get up if you're that inspired to go do whatever it is.
Yep.
But like normally in the summer, how does it go? I think, I can't remember, but I feel like I wake up earlier in the wintertime than I do in the summer.
Yeah.
Because in the winter it gets dark earlier, so I'm able to go to bed earlier.
Yep.
And wake up earlier. And in the summer, I still wake up early-ish, but probably not by most standards. And I just find that like I end up staying up later, so I sleep in longer. And it feels good to sleep in the morning in the summer because the birds are out and the sun's coming up and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, totally. I think I find myself sleeping longer and later in the summers for sure. Just kind of one of those things that you were talking about. We also, running at such high energy and intensity for, that long, it ends up being something that your body just kind of needs to catch up with everything, I feel like, and the summer feels like that time for me.
Yeah. It's interesting, though, because it gets light so early, so you'd think that we would be up super early, and, some people are, but I'm just not one of those people that's like an early riser every single day.
Yeah. Me neither. Let's switch gears for a second. You grew up ski racing, right?
Yeah.
I find that like so many professional skiers started with ski racing. Is there something that you think ski racing gave to you that really helped you become the person that you are today and the athlete that you are today?
Well, ski racing definitely gave me the ability to ski the way that I do.
Yeah.
I ski raced from Nancy Green, which is in Canada. It's like when you're just a young kid, it's when they take you out and go skiing around on the mountain and you ski stubbies and stuff like that.
Yep. And
then I transferred into, I don't know what it's called, but like K1 and K2 is like your early teen years. And I did pretty well as a ski racer. I was a bit smaller than the other guys, so sometimes I had a little bit of difficulty like reaching, like getting first, but definitely was on the podium quite a bit throughout those 4 years. And I won the overall provincial championships in my last year of K2 division,
Nice.
which you go to FIS from there. So that was really cool for me.
Yeah.
And then I did one FIS race, I think, and I just hated it. I had to start so far back because of the point system, and I'm still this tiny little kid compared to like these grown men, like I don't even know what I weighed at that time, but I was tiny, right?
Yeah.
And, I've always skied the mountain living here in Roslyn, riding Red Mountain. So I've always been a free rider. Like I'd go out on my slalom skis. They didn't even make POW skis for us at that point in time.
Yeah.
So I'm always riding my slalom skis all over the hill. And so I think I'd probably been competing in some big mountain contests and other stuff like that, branching out a little bit. And I was so inspired by the videos and stuff. Like, I didn't really care for racing. I never really cared for it. I'm just competitive. So, I would always give it everything I had, but I wanted to ski and jump off cliffs and stuff like that. So that's what I did. Didn't ski anymore.
Yeah, totally. I was kind of in the same boat. I ended up racing until I was 18, but I weighed 130 pounds when I graduated high school at the age of 18. And, I just could not put on weight. I think, my dad has MS, so I was always eating super healthy when I was younger. And I think that it just caused my, puberty to set in later for me. And so, I didn't put on weight until I was, 21, basically. I went from, 135 pounds to 165 pounds when I was 21. But, and most of it being muscle. But, yeah, I can feel your pain, especially in the speed events. I would just get destroyed in speed.
Yeah, it was crazy for sure. And just the courses are so rutted out and icy, and I was just not used to that.
Yeah, totally. I got a 4-run NORAM event when I was maybe 13 or 14, and they hadn't injected it. And I remember it was so icy. That was one of the most miserable experiences that I had in ski racing. I just felt like I made a complete fool out of myself. Felt like I couldn't ski, and I'm supposed to be forerunning this, this North American, fist race.
Yeah. I think ski racing though is awesome, especially for the big mountain aspect and pillow skiing, whatnot. Because, ski racing develops really good technique. And you can tell the people that have ski raced and the people that don't. Personally, I really like a ski racing style. Yeah. Not like a typical ski racing style, but, somebody that's moved into the mountains with their riding and has adjusted it to have a mountain flow, but they still have proper technique,
Yeah. Totally. That's, my favorite people to watch are the people who have experience in ski racing and who, who have been, taught that proper technique. And then I also think ski racing brings discipline, teaches you discipline in a lot of ways, because it has, I don't know about you, but I was skiing, 6 days a week from my teenage years, and lifting and going to a college prep school. And so it was my life just needed to be orchestrated in this perfect way, and have discipline between what I was eating, how I was training, balancing the homework and everything else. And I think that definitely has led me to not only have skills to be in the big mountains, but also just skills in life, and the discipline that it takes to have a successful life.
Yeah, definitely.
Was there one piece of advice that you were given or encouragement that has stuck with you? And if so, who was it by?
That's a good question. I don't know. I can't recall anything off the top of my head. I guess I've just been really inspired through so many different videos throughout my whole life. When I was a kid, I watched motocross videos, ski videos, all kinds of videos, like most of us have. Yep. And I think that probably stuck with me the most, is just wanting to film and get these cool shots like I was seeing in the videos. And, that's still pretty much where I'm at today, is just going out to get these really cool shots and be able to create videos. It's I don't know, it's just really cool to see the end result.
Yeah.
But there's this one, it's not from somebody else. It's actually something I wrote when I was younger, which is really funny for me to read, because the current path that I'm on. It's this little Nike shoe that I got to color in when I was at school. Like, who knows what? I was homeschooled after 4th grade, so this is before then.
Yep.
And it says, I'm going to train hard in J3 and J4 or whatever, like ski racing stuff, so that I can go to the Olympics. And if I fall, I'm going to get up and I'm going to train hard, so that I can go to the Olympics.
Yep.
And I didn't go to the Olympics. I had the opportunity to pursue that path in slopestyle, but I decided that wasn't really where I wanted to go and that I loved riding in the mountains. And so I followed that path. But I am a very, I don't know, I'm a little bit of like a serious guy, I'd say. Focused, I should say. I'm focused. And, like, it's just so funny to look back at that and be like, wow, I'm going to train hard and do all this stuff when I was like such a young kid, and I'm still exactly that. And I just don't even remember thinking like that when I was that young,
Yeah, totally. I remember watching Johnny Mosley and Tommy Moe in the Nagano Olympics and Peekaboo Street, and I remember watching, them each medal. And it was like, for me, I made a decision then that I was going to be in the Olympics. I obviously haven't been in the Olympics, but it's that same drive and that same want to pursue the sport at such just a committed level that, has put me where I am today. And, I'm taking a slightly different approach right now with, trying to interview people like you and share information. And, I'm kind of going where it feels right for me. I haven't achieved the level of success that you have in any way, but definitely, I have a passion for the sport that has stayed true. And, I wake up every morning, and whether there's snow on the ground or whether it's sunny in fall, I'm thinking about skiing and what I want to do that day to make myself a better skier. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's like exactly what, looking back in the past and seeing that, it's like we're still following the same path and we still have the same amount of drive for it, if not more. And at the end of the day, we don't really do this for success. It's just, this is the type of life that we enjoy, and this is what we have drive for in life. So we just continue along this path because it's what we live for. Yeah,
totally. And it's fulfilling no matter what, from an internal perspective. It's, I'm something that I've really focused on in the last year is internal validation, because I was searching for validation, outside in so many ways, whether it was in intimate relationship or whether it was, trying to get results on the Free Skiing World Tour or getting sponsors or whatever it was. And, I realized that for me, it just came down to I had to choose to be happy and choose to be fulfilled with my actions, no matter what happened outside of me. As long as I was putting my best foot forward every day, I was happy. And
yeah. The interesting thing nowadays is it's just like the life we live is awesome, but requires a certain level of money, I guess you would say.
Yep.
Like we're doing really high-end, expensive sports.
Yep.
And it's just so funny because it's like, man, I'd love to just be able to not have to do it for a living, or not, we'd all love to not have to work. I mean, like, I don't know, it'd just be nice. How do I describe it? We'd be doing it either way, but it's just funny when it's your job, I guess.
Yeah, totally. I think, every one of us wants like the freedom to do whatever we want, whenever we want. Not to say that we wouldn't have, we're not going to put in work or we're not going to work hard. It's just, I think for me, it's that I want the freedom to be able to, if I want to create an edit or a short series or a webisode series or whatever, having the freedom to be able to say, hey, you have, a nice camera and the drive, and, we can go out together and we can create art, and it doesn't matter whether sponsors like it or not.
Yeah, because that's not what we do it for, right? This is just something for like each one of us. It's just a lifestyle, you know?
Yep. Yeah, totally.
I'd be just as happy to work a normal job and do the things that I do as I am to do what I do and not work a normal job, you know? But like, I've been starting to dabble with some of my buddies and helping them out with their jobs and stuff. And I find it just as entertaining as, you know, working as a skier.
Yeah, totally. I work part-time for a guy who's in a wheelchair. He lives like 1,000 feet away from me, or maybe half a mile, something like that. But he builds hand cycles for people in wheelchairs. And, growing up with a dad with MS, we ended up building a bike for him. And, we build bikes for people across the nation and across the world who it allows them to have the experiences that you and I love to have for people who have never had the opportunity to. And that for me is like so ultimately rewarding, just as rewarding, finishing a bike is just as rewarding as landing after speed flying or landing a double backflip or, whatever it is on the hill for me.
Yeah, totally.
I know on your website it says that you're getting it like an entrepreneur as well, or that you're business savvy and that you dabble with other things outside the realm of just action sports. Can you dive in a little bit on that?
Yeah, I guess, how would I put it? It's just a constant state of learning, right? No matter what aspect it may be. So, I've been interested in learning more about the stock market and also interested in what it would take to create a business and just different aspects of life outside of skiing, because skiing and sports isn't everything,
Yeah.
And it's all quite interesting. So learning is cool, right? I like to learn.
Yeah.
And it's a good question. How could I put it? I don't know, just keeping everything open. So when the opportunity arises, then you can take the next step in a different direction. And there's so much to be learned from everybody. And being a professional skier gives a great opportunity to hear from so many different people around the world.
Yep.
And also it gives me the opportunity through earning the living that I do and saving the cash that I can to be able to start new processes, like buying property and learning about the construction business and, building a house and see where that takes me. And there's just a lot of different aspects in the business world that are possible if it's something that we're open to.
Yeah, totally.
I feel, everyone's out just kind of filming and doing everything for themselves, really, in a certain way, right? And for sure, I want to create projects that inspire others to pursue the same types of path. And I try to get it across to people, but they just never seem to get it because they can't see past the sport aspect of my life. But I want people to be able to watch what I do and be like, man, that guy has pursued his path to the fullest extent because that's what he loved to do. And it didn't matter what the outcome was. That's just what he loved. And I hope that people can take that into any walk of life, whether it be in business or sports or whatever. Pursue whatever it is that inspires you. And don't only look at it as a sporting aspect, because the possibilities are endless, and sometimes it's hard to initiate on new things because I love to say, we're capable of anything, yet I still kind of like delve heavily in the sporting world because that's where I grew up.
Yep.
I believe that I'd be capable of stepping away from that completely and pursuing another path and making it successful. But until, you've made the break and like gone and done something else, it's all just talk, right?
Yeah, totally. I think, when you have a pattern of making decisions and then going out and accomplishing it, you've set yourself up in the routine for success.
Yeah, life in itself is just awesome. So I guess it just gave me a bit more perspective on what that really means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you had one piece of advice that you would give to a kid that's looking to do what you've done, what would it be?
So this is something that, how do I put it? Basically, I've had some free ride world tour athletes talk to me, and I hear what they have to say, and I think and you've experienced that life as you were on the road all the time, and at the end of the day, there's really not a lot that you get out of it. Like, definitely some of the athletes are sponsored, I think, but like overall, it doesn't seem like there's, I don't know. I would, other than like having a cool life experience, are you really like going to get a living out of that? Not that that's what anybody's following it for, but like at some point they're hoping they're going to earn a living doing what they love, right?
Yeah.
And I also noticed that not a lot, but like some of the people that I've talked to that were on the tour wanted to film.
Mm-hmm.
And so my advice would be to pursue the path it is that you want and don't try to take branches of the path to get there.
Totally. I think that's like super sound advice because I followed that exact path. I wanted to film. That was what I wanted to do. And I actually got advice from Chris Ben Chetler. I got to ski with him in Copper in 2009, I think it was. And or maybe it was 2008. And he competed and then, pretty quickly was filming. And Griffin Post had that same sort of thing. But I think that era, like for me, the whole competition circuit has kind of become, at least in the big mountain scene, has kind of become a little bit overblown. And unless you want to be a free skiing or a free ride world tour champion, there's no real other reason to do it. Whereas I think, 10 years ago, it was easier to compete and to have people see you. And I don't know if you find that to be, the truth or, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I honestly don't know because I don't compete anymore.
Yeah.
But I would say, I did take the path and I did compete when I was younger and all of those things. Like I did do all those things to get to where I am. And I do talk to people that have been team managers now, and they're like, "Oh, I remember you when you were at Crested Butte as a young kid, winning the contest, like blowing everybody's minds." Is kind of like how they put it. And so, like, without a doubt, those days had some impact.
Yep.
But I don't think that that's how I ended up where I am. I got to this point because I wanted to film, and I took each step to get out and film with the film companies, right?
Yeah.
So when I was younger, I was filming with my buddies on the ski hill and like putting together promotional videos and sending them to sponsors. And then when it was at the point where, I felt like I was at the moment where I needed to move into filming with a company. I couldn't just like go and film with buddies anymore, right?
Yep.
And so I contacted Jeff at Theory 3 and I was like, I want to come film. And I had Solomon as a sponsor and they worked it out and I was able to go film with Jeff. And then the next year he moved over to Poor Boys, and I was then moving along with him to Poor Boys. And it's just like I have continued to follow the filming path, and that's why I'm a film skier.
Yeah.
You know, I did go to slope style for a little while because I had hopes that I could get results in slope style to get these couple sponsors that I was hoping to get so that I could then make my own movies.
Yeah.
And I felt like I needed these specific sponsors to be able to make them. And I never fulfilled that thought process. I kind of got to a point where I was like, what am I doing? Like, I would have needed to put in more time in the park to be able to achieve what I was looking for, at least in the results, to hopefully get the sponsors I wanted. And I'm sitting there, and like Jeff's back home telling me how much snow there is, and like they're filming, and like I just had to go back to that. You know, that was my roots, and that's where I wanted to be. So I went back to it. I never stopped filming, but I was splitting my time. And so now I'm just a full-blown film skier, and yeah, just follow the path that you want. Don't go other directions to try to get there. Like, there's just no point. You know, if you want to be a film skier, not a competition skier, because that's going to make you a competition skier.
Yeah.
If you're able to achieve that level of that aspect of the sport to potentially move on to the next aspect, you know?
Yeah, totally. I think that's, that's super sound advice.
And go the same in any aspect of life, you know, like if you want to be a businessman, go be a businessman, you know, whatever, just follow the path that you want.
Yeah, totally. There's a saying in entrepreneurship that, multitasking is basically the death of any idea. Whenever you try and spread yourself thin or, think about two things at once, you accomplish both of them at half speed.
Yeah, totally. I think at some level, though, it's nice to be able to expand, right? So
yep.
I could have just continued to focus on skiing, but I've branched out my focus and ride bikes and do, I train all the time, do different aspects of life. And I don't think that has necessarily taken away from my life. It may have taken away from maybe like the summer skiing aspect. So like maybe I could still be doing tricks right now. Yeah. If I hadn't branched out into these other portions of my life, but I wouldn't really want to be like, skiing all summer doing tricks like I was 4 years ago or 5 years ago, right? Like I'm happy with the way that life is progressing. So I think that a level of expansion is important.
Yeah.
But definitely make sure to stay on the path that you would like to achieve.
Totally. If you could have one significant impact on the world once you've left, what would it be?
I would like everybody to just to follow their dreams, man. Like, yeah, I would just like everybody to be able to pursue what it is that they want and realize that they're capable of it. And there's just so much opportunity in life, and it's all there for everybody. And I just hope to be able to inspire others to be able to do the same things I've done in whatever walk of life they choose.
Definitely. You mentioned, I think pretty much going to wrap it up here, but a couple last questions. You mentioned your latest project. Is there anything that you want to say about your latest project? The podcast won't come out until January 1st, so anything that you're saying might be post it coming out. But
right. Well, I'd say it's funny, right? Like, because we've talked so much about like teams and doing things other than yourself, and it's just a bit of a funny business to be in, right? Like, we're in the self-promotion business, and like, so you have to kind of like, you got to promote yourself and be like involved in your own life and what you're doing. And so it's a bit of a funny battle because of that. But I'm pretty stoked on how the video that we've put together has come out, and it's different than what I've made in the past. It's training, skiing, and biking.
Sweet.
And again, it's in hopes to inspire others to pursue their path, no matter what aspect. And I hope that the way that we put it together is how it comes across, and that people don't just think like I'm, just talking about like myself or something, right? Like it's narrated and whatnot. So we'll see how it's received.
Definitely. I think your intention is pretty pure from what I can tell, so I think it'll be received well. I know I'm stoked to see it because I've gotten into this weight training, biking, this mentality of, I tore my ACL in February and had ACL surgery at the end of March, and, I've been hitting it hard because I want to come back and still crush this ski season, and I have been eating super healthy and, getting even stronger than I was. And, kind of that fire that you were talking about when you dislocated your hip and busted your teeth out that next season. I've got that fire going for the second season in a row after, season-ending injuries. I'm super excited to see what you come out with and, see what, because I'm assuming that it's kind of like self-produced in some ways.
Yeah, it is for sure.
So yeah, I'm excited to see what you come out with.
Well, I'm glad to hear what you're saying, because that's like what you're saying is exactly what I hoped the target audience would be, and like being the outdoors enthusiast, athlete kind of person that I am, like, we're watching all kinds of different videos, like, or I do anyways, on YouTube, like, especially when I'm really into training. And so I see like all these inspirational training videos and whatnot.
Yep.
But I found that I didn't find anything along the lines of what we do. There's like tons of stuff with like boxers and like weightlifters and like, all types of your more, I don't know, usual sports, I'm going to say, not the outdoor aspects.
Yeah.
So I just wasn't seeing anything in our line of the world, our thought process in the mountains and stuff. So I wanted to create something like that to get people all psyched up, and like to want to train and like delve into the flow aspects and all the different things that we do, and kind of just try to express like what that feels,
Yeah.
through my words.
Yeah, something that I was thinking about that when I was thinking about things to talk to you about in the podcast is, I'm going to call it like our traditional sports like boxing or football or soccer. Yeah. The major difference between what we do and what they do is on a daily basis we can die. Like that really is like what defines an extreme sport versus a traditional sport.
Right.
And I think that that's what completely changes the aspect. For me, I was having an existential crisis last night about speed flying, about the last speed flights that I've done. Because, speed flying can almost be looked at as similar to base jumping, where, you're putting yourself out there and it's kind of a zero mistake sport.
Yeah.
And, skiing is the same way in certain situations. And, is there anything that you, like any piece of advice or anything that you do that, really gets you into that flow state, gets you into the moment and allows you to conquer, kind of those voices in your head that can say, what about this? What about that?
Yeah, well, I think what I learned after my injury was definitely knowing the right time, so you're going to feel the best when things are lining up for your style.
Yep.
And then as far as accessing the flow, I've found that, breathing's a huge part of that. So the more relaxed that you can get and the more in the, the more in the zone you can get as far as feeling the natural world and absorbing the elements, enables you to get into that. And then also kind of just, I found riding my bike, if I just let go of my body and try to imagine my brain is floating,
yeah,
that gives me pretty easy access to it.
Yeah.
Like, I just imagine my brain's floating and my body's just kind of like doing whatever it does, and you just let it go and you're on.
Yeah. I get in that state biking or running. I actually started running after I tore my ACL, which is something that I've hated for the longest time. Never was a runner. And now it's something that, yeah, like literally I can just kind of let my mind, like I have to get into a rhythm and consciously get my core to engage and consciously get my technique going. But then once that technique is going, then yeah, I've never thought about it or heard it in that way. Like your brain is just floating. But if I could describe it in any way, that's kind of exactly how I'd describe it. So that's awesome.
It becomes so peripheral, right? Like you're not really focused on anything in particular. So your brain is like in the air and your body is just this peripheral
group
piece
of
of
senses
tool.
Almost.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, where can people find you, follow you? Where can they look for your latest projects? I know you have your website, danetudor.com.
danetudor.com, and then Instagram, Facebook.
Yep.
I'm pretty on and off with the social media stuff. Sometimes I'm good at posting, and other times I don't post for a while.
Yeah.
May not be the best for the whole sponsorship thing, but I don't know. I try to draw the line between like self-promotion and not, and like just living in life, right?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I go through these waves. Like this winter, I was posting almost every day. And then, I tore my ACL and kind of lost content. And I was like, I don't want to post stuff about me working out all the time. And, this and that. And so I stopped. And then
It's like posting stuff of training is like probably one of the more motivational things for most people. Like after looking and reading through all the stuff and what we talked about with the fitness aspects is I learned how huge the fitness world is. And people are just looking for all that kind of stuff,
Yeah, totally. I think it's, a big part of the movement that's happening in society right now is fitness is kind of coming to the forefront, and people are realizing how you need to properly take care of your body to perform and to go out and pursue these dreams that you're talking about. If you don't have the vessel to perform, then you're just not going to be able to perform. That's,
Right. And this is your life, right? So
yeah,
you want to be able to be as healthy as possible just to, live the best life you can.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it, folks. I hope you really enjoyed this conversation with Dane Tudor. He is an amazingly insightful individual, and it was a pleasure for me to talk to him. As always, I really appreciate every one of your guys' support. And if you've made it this far, don't forget that rating, reviewing, and subscribing always helps my cause and helps me get my voice out there. So I appreciate every single one of you that has given me a good rating, review, or that has subscribed to the show. As always, thanks for tuning in to The Athletic Stance, and until next time.
Yeah.